Good evening, everybody. It is Tuesday evening, January 18th at 6:02 p.m. I'm in council chambers along with Municipal Coordinator Duarte, CAO DeJohn, and CFO Rook. Council is virtually attending, although Councillor Barmier is not here just yet. I expect him momentarily. So I will call the meeting to order and we'll go immediately to the council meeting. And the three proposed topics for discussion in the absence of the public are proposal consideration, grants, and personnel. And the meeting will be closed to the public on the basis of matters to be considered under the following sections of the community charter. And where required, the council does consider that the matters could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality if they were held in public. And those sections are sections 91, A, C, E, I, J, K, and N, and section 90, subsection 2 and B, and CAO.
Just an additional ground for closing topic-wise legal matters.
Okay. So council item number D will be legal matters, and CAO, we're covered in that.
I want to add subsection 91G, as in Gordon, litigation or potential litigation.
Thank you very much. So added. Municipal Coordinator, have you noted that? Thank you very much. Council anticipates reconvening the open meeting to discuss the balance of the agenda and do some reporting out. If I can have confirmation via yes or nays that is acceptable to council, and those opposed no, then we will go into close. Please confirm by saying yes or no.
Yes.
So done, confirmed, thank you, and Municipal Coordinator will go into closed. Good evening, everybody. It is Tuesday, January 18th at 7 p.m. I'm in chambers with Municipal Coordinator Duarte and CAO DeJohn and CFO Rook. Councillors are online virtually, as is the Works Manager, Mr. Jaffer. Welcome, everybody. And we have just left the closed portion of the meeting and suspended that to come back to live. There is nothing to report out other than the following, which will affect the agenda amendment I'm going to make in a second. So the reporting out piece is that legal matters were discussed and council is awaiting legal advice with respect to several aspects of the application brought by Mr. and Mrs. Lund for a DVP and encroachment agreement, and will not be further considering the disposition of that matter or any additional materials this evening, and the agenda is to be amended accordingly, and I'll do that in a second. The applicant and any affected neighbors may speak for 2 minutes in the public participation portion, which will begin in just a few minutes. So to the adoption of the agenda, I will put forward the agenda with the amendment being the deletion of item 8B, which is the same 52 Brunswick Beach Road development variance permit and encroachment applications. Can I have a seconder on that from council, please? Thank you. Any other amendments, additions, deletions? CAO, I don't believe you have any.
No.
No, councillors, any? No, thank you all. I'll call the motion. All those in favor of the agenda as amended, please confirm by saying yes. Those opposed, no. Carried, thank you. To the public participation, I see several in the gallery. If you don't have to, you can leave your camera off if you choose, but if you want to unmute and come forward, you've got 2 minutes per, and to a maximum of 10. So anybody that would like to come forward, please do so now. Nicole?
Hi. Yes. Am I able to speak? Hi, thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Council, staff, Carla. I was contacted by the Mayor McLaughlin today and informed that Council requires more time to review our applications for our beach access encroachment, therefore postponing the meeting to February 22nd or to February 2022. We purchased this property from the village with the knowledge that we would have direct beach access from our property to the beach. To ensure these assurances are met, In the interim, while council takes the necessary time to review the materials for our applications, we feel the best option here for all parties is to make a request for council to consider approving a temporary beach access encroachment. And we wish to suggest two reasonable options. One, our proposed rampway structure as designed can serve as a temporary encroachment, being that the rampway is a structure suitable for long time or temporary use. Two, we are open to council providing other options that can appropriately serve as an immediate and temporary beach access from our property to the beach. Please keep in mind the importance of the purpose behind these applications, which is to accommodate our son's Alex's physical needs and mental well-being, and his human right to barrier-free access. We respectfully expect that council has time to address this request at tonight's meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Lind. If I can respond in my comments at the earlier part, we won't be considering anything further on the disposition. So a good request, a solid request, but I will pass on that one. Thank you very much. If I can, I also noticed that Mr. Lund is in the gallery too. Without talking about what and where, council is certainly aware of what's going on, and we wish him a speedy recovery and a safe trip home.
Thank you.
Any other gallery members, please come forward. Otherwise, we'll move on to the next piece of the agenda. There being none, last call. Okay, thank you. Then we'll move on.
Mayor?
Oh,
sorry.
Yes.
Pardon me, Mayor. It just took me a minute to get online. I'm sorry about that.
No, it's fine, Doctor. Just compose yourself for a second, Dr. Bent, and then you can go when you want.
Okay. Well, good evening, Honorable Mayor and councillors, Mr. Jong, Mr. Javer, and fellow residents. Thanks for this opportunity to provide an update from my side on the 52 BOV and EA applications. And I mean, it is unfortunate this application is so full of controversies and, you know, with potential interference of my beach access, that additional time has had to be taken to look at this more closely. And again, with, I think, better planning and village involvement at an early stage to clearly, you know, create a distinct separate access that respects the right of others, it would have been much easier for 52 to secure a prompt beach access approval so that we could all get back to enjoying the incredible location here. I do respect the need for village staff to take additional time to complete its inquiries into the legal issues relating to this matter. And I have gone back and reaffirmed, and I reaffirm with you that my advisors do still have concern about the legal breach should the EA be approved. And simply making a saw cut between their landing pad and mine doesn't really, in my mind, address the issues with regards to interference with egress and or interference with my stair structure. And again, it was alluded to at the last meeting that there could be changes to my EA that was thrown forward. But again, that was just legally reaffirmed last month, and I think that would be unfair to consider that. And as far as a temporary use of the exact structure that is under review, I don't think that that is appropriate because it still creates the conflict that has gone on here. And I think that that really should not be something that goes forward. And especially when the, you know, I have followed, you know, the rules, and it is the case that had the rules been followed by others, it wouldn't be that we're in this position, and that special exceptions with temporary encroachment with their structure would be required. If it were the case that beach access was the only goal stated by 52, that could be something that could be open to mediation, but I'm not quite sure that that has been the sole objective.
Thank you, Dr. Banta. If you have a closing comment, please make it. Otherwise, I'll ask you to conclude.
No, that's it, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I'll comment on something else in a second, but before I do that, if there's another gallery member that wants to come forward, please do so now. Okay, there appears to be not. Thank you to Mrs. Lund for the pieces of correspondence that came in the last couple of days. Well, from your household, I'm not sure who writes them, but I will attribute it to you. And any that come from Dr. Banta, we will not be including that as part of this evening's package. We will be deferring those to the next council meeting when it's all relevant relative to the what I hope will be a decision on the development variance permit. And we will apprise you at that time. Some may be in camera, some may be not in camera. Take it that if it's in camera, there are issues that we may not want to bring to the public in terms of correcting statements that may not be true. So that being said, thank you very much. Please continue to send any information in that you will between now and our next meeting. Thank you. That closes the public portion of the meeting, and we'll move on to the next, which is item 6, and that will be acceptance of the minutes of the regular council meeting of December 14th, which seems so long ago, pre-snowfall, pre-freezing weather, and pre-Christmas. I'll put forward the motion to accept the minutes on December the 14th. Can I have a seconder? Thank you. Any changes, amendments, deletions on those, councillors? There being none, I'll call a motion. All those in favor of the minutes as they stand, please confirm by saying yes. Those opposed, no.
Yes.
Carried. Thank you. Next is the special council meeting of last Tuesday, January 11th. And I'll put forward the motion that those be approved. Can I have a seconder? Thank you. Any discussion, changes, amendments, deletions? There being none, call a motion. All those in favor of the minutes as recorded, please confirm by saying yes. Those opposed, no.
Yes.
Aye.
Thank you, carried. Business arising from the minutes. I didn't have any, and I know that I believe that of the two meetings that we got most of it captured in different sections of our agenda now, or that council is working on in camera. Councillors, if I'm incorrect, please bring up something that you wish that we could address. There being none, then we'll move on. Unfinished business, and I'll move through this quickly. Mr. Jaffer, I don't believe anything's changed on the rail crossings, has it?
No, you're correct.
Thank you. And same on the Lions Bay walkways, which is the next item.
Yeah, if any work we do will be planned for the spring, early summer.
Okay, and we'll see that as part of the parking plan or some other version.
That's a good place for it, yes.
Thank you very much. Please have it there then. And I think for Councillor Abbott, I know you've replied to Mr. Kisser, and I know you've replied to Mayor Burr and Mr. Sredsky, and Municipal Coordinator, if you could strike those two. Mr. Jaffer on the rodenticide prohibition, any update there?
No, staff haven't had time to contact the SPCA.
Thank you. That stays. Next item, which is the ECOM, which is sitting on my inbox to do. Unfortunately, councillors, I haven't. The information is being withheld by the management of ECOM, so I will try and get clearance for you to see that, and I will try to do that this week. So that stays on, Municipal Coordinator. And for Councillor Abbott, I know you've dealt with item 244, 245, and I think if we could deal with item 246, Councillor Abbott has responded. Are you comfortable with us addressing this here, Councillor Abbott?
We can, through a question of passing it over to staff. There was an offer of some additional information from the resident. And it's just a question of staff reaching out and reviewing whether there's something there that's new that will assist us with this ongoing challenge, for lack of a better term.
Unless you saw it, Councillor Abbott, Mr. Taylor didn't tell us whether it was a horse trailer of documents, 2 bankers boxes or more.
Well, yeah, he offered to pass it on. I don't think passing it on to me makes sense. I think they should go to staff, to Peter and I, or whoever is pursuing this, because I think as a group we still intend to pursue it. Correct?
How about we do this as a first step? If you can arrange for a pickup of the stuff, and we'll see what the volume is. I don't know what we're talking about, but I'm not so sure staff's keen on looking through 10 bankers boxes.
Why don't we just contact Mr. Taylor and ask him? And
Drop it off?
Yeah.
Staff will do that? Fine. Then we'll have a sense of line.
Yeah.
We'll go from there?
Yeah.
Staff's hands? Didn't see that coming. Okay, good. Thank you. So staff will deal with Mr. Taylor directly on his last things. Thank you very much, Councillor Abbott.
Can I make one final comment on 244 as well? We did agree that as one of our budgeting items, we would consider year-round porta potties at the trailhead. Just want to make sure that staff have got that in the budget considerations.
Yes.
And then my question would be, assuming that it's in the budget and everyone agrees we should be doing this, or the likelihood I think is that everyone's going to agree to doing it, when can we act on this? I mean, is there any reason why we can't get that porta potty up there now?
Actually, Councillor Abbott, I'm going to hold you on this one. I thought we'd actually asked that it be put in place. I don't think we were waiting for a budget.
Year round, it was a budget consideration, yes.
Trails.
My suggestion, my thoughts were along the lines of what the mayor suggested, is put it up now and then budget for it in the future. But
I mean, the issue's not going away, and on clear days, people are going up there and doing what they do. So I'll hand it back to staff, but I think that knowing that this is something that council is going to want, if you get it now and we put it in the budget.
I mean, there are things we can do. There's been times, like after the budget presentation in February, if there are things that are more urgent, you can do a resolution at that time. I would be more comfortable if we found out the cost. It's not even to say no, but look at alternatives, because one of the things we talked about is just a permanent bathroom structure, as well as just porta potties, because then they can go further away from the road. Like there's limitations, but it's like different solutions to the issue.
Okay, CFO, I'm going to bite, but I'm going to ask Councillor Abbott, who's representing his street on this one. I'll bite that if you're thinking of a more permanent structure. I mean, I can certainly wait for 3 weeks till the next council meeting if you can, Councillor Abbott. And then later we'll be asking that the things put in place the next week, or staff's got a plan to do a permanent structure. What's your
permanent structure in? That's going to take time to design and procure, so we're going to need a temporary porta potty in the meantime anyway. So let's just put one up there.
It's up to council then. It's up to council then, if you want to do a resolution.
What about a pit toilet? Is that an option?
I thought we explored that and it was a no, Public Works Manager.
It's far enough away from the intake. However, that implies the maintenance and upkeep of that toilet is going to be done by municipal staff, and that's pretty onerous. To be honest, a porta potty is the easiest way to go.
Thank you. I'm with Councillor Abbott. This is in a residential neighborhood, and I mean the problem is not farther up the trail; it's closer home. If I can leave it at that and not be too blunt. So I would be, and I'll wait for Councillor Cunliffe to make her comments, but Councillor Abbott, if you want to put a motion forward after she's done, I will be happy to second. Councillor Cunliffe?
Thank you, Mayor McLaughlin. Yeah, I think we just need to put in porta potties stat right now. The cost is very low considering the impact that it's having on our residents. It's really not up for discussion. Beyond that, a permanent structure is not taking care of the problem that has been highlighted over the past 2 years of COVID. So we just need porta potties now.
Can I take that as a motion?
Please.
Second discussion?
I'll second.
Good. Any discussion? None? All in favor? Yes. Opposed? No?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very much on that one. And the last item for me was 247. And I think we've been in public that, and this is to do the payroll, 10-year payroll analysis. So I think that is going to come forward. I think CFO, two things, if I can deal with this so I can strike this. It's not in your work plan, which follows. And I'm not sure when you thought you might have it to us.
But that's why I was there. And your suggestion was to just keep it on here
Okay.
until it was done. And I would say we haven't settled on the council schedule yet, but it would come to a meeting in March.
Good, thank you very much. So we'll leave it on until then. And the last one, and I think this is just as a visual piece, if I can, with council's blessing, I'd like to add, which I presume would be number 248, and that'll be today. And the topic would be, or item description is, for lack of a better one, but a broad scope, would be ESS, EOC, DPEC. And as to the action, it would be council and staff, council and CAO. So we'll have that before us in the future. I presume that's fine with council? Yes, good, thank you. We've struck item 8B, 8C. So CAO, you have the updated request for decision on a meeting calendar, and I think any final comments before I go to the motion?
Yeah, there's one error. Option 1, there's 2 special meetings. One on February 15th to adopt the utilities rate bylaws, and one on May 10th to adopt the budget. Other than that, the amounts or the comparative amounts of meetings set out at the beginning of the report are as set out there. There's a note that in any event, we may need to schedule a public hearing for, I was thinking possibly February 22nd to consider amendments to the regional contact statement / OCP. Just throw that out as a potential date we might want to have our eye on. And the rest of the rationale, the first part of the report deals with the notice requirements, and the rest of the report deals with the rationale on page 2. I know you've all read it, so I'll just sit back and take questions if there are any.
There we go. I tell you what we will do is I will put forward the motion, ask for a second, we'll go to discussion. We've had a rather wholesome discussion on this before. So the recommendation is that the proposed council meeting dates for 2022 be set out in option 2 as amended by the CIO.
Option 1.
Option 1, sorry. Attached to this report be approved by council, and 2, that council considers publication of the meeting schedule in the VU to be reasonably equivalent to that which would be provided by a local newspaper publication if it were practical, and 3, that staff publish the 2022 council meeting schedule in the VU in accordance with legislative requirements. I'll put forward that motion, get a seconder. And I'll come back to you in a second, Councillor Abbott. Do I have a second? Gone.
Yeah, I'll second.
Thank you. Okay, second, Councillor Abbott, discussion starts with you.
Thank you. Just a couple of quick observations. I'm not going to go through the motivations that I've put forward in previous meetings. I think everyone knows my position and why I'd like to go back to 2. So I'll take my statements as heard in the same way as Peter's going to take the report as read. But I do still want to comment a few things that are in the actual report. The total meetings as described in the first part of the thing, where it looks as if there's 4 more regular council meetings in option 2 is not really accurate. As Peter pointed out, there's 2 special council meetings and in the 3 weeks schedule. It should also be noted you have a meeting on February the 15th, which is a regular council meeting where there was a plan to have a committee of the whole meeting. there's no reason to add an extra meeting. You can open the regular council meeting, go into a committee of the whole, come back to the regular council meeting and discuss no more than what you'd plan to discuss if you want. It still means you have a regular council meeting on that day. And if there is something we want to vote on, we can actually do it and get it all done. So that doesn't add an extra meeting. So in actual fact, if you factor those things in, and if you also consider the fact that we are in an election year, so we really should only be talking about the meetings that are in advance of the election. And so that's 15 meetings in advance on the 3-week schedule, and it's only 16. So actually, as I pointed out last time, 1 additional meeting to go the other way. So once again, I do not think this is going to be any more of a time suck on any of our time. Also a couple of other comments about cancelling a meeting if there's a dearth of items. I doubt that's unlikely to happen between now and October. I think we've got a lot of stuff to deal with. There'll always be something to have a council meeting, and we can have shorter meetings, I think, are better than sitting here till midnight, especially if people need to travel. So that's just my comment on that statement. And those are my comments. And there was a question about a long break over the summer. Yes, if you do have the 2 meetings a month, you have a longer break in the summer, not the other way around. I accept that, but I think there's a few councillors that might be quite happy with those extra 2 weeks in the summer and maybe won't need to call in from their holidays for council meetings as happened last year. So those are my comments. I'll pass it over to the other councillors, and the rest of my motivations you've heard before.
Thank you very much.
Your support.
Thank you. I'll be quick with the other 3 councillors to make sure everybody has a chance. Councillor Cunliffe, I'm just going right to left on my screen. Do you have any comments? And if none, that's fine. And we'll go to the vote in a minute.
Well, yeah, my comments are is we went to the other schedule where we had farther time between meetings. And from my experience, it seemed like there was a special council meeting more frequently. It seemed like we were meeting more frequently than from the 1st and 3rd Tuesdays. So I'm not sure. It seems to me it's 6 of one and half a dozen of the other. And to Councillor Abbott's point, if we do if a meeting needs to be canceled, then I guess we go through the process of canceling it. But if a decision needs to be made, shorter meetings are better, in my opinion. After 6 hours, things can get a little tedious. So I'm really sitting on the fence here. I understand from staff's perspective that having more time to prepare between meetings is optimal, but from the experience over the last year, it would seem that there was a special meeting frequently, which also takes preparation. So
thank you. Thank you very much, Councillor Cunliffe. Councillor Barmere, any comments, or if none, we'll go to the vote in a minute.
No comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bain, any comments, or we'll go to the vote in a minute?
I'm quite flexible for myself, if I'm just going to think of myself, but I think there are issues on both sides of the argument, and I think I sympathize with our colleagues who actually have daytime jobs, and I think that should be held in a high consideration.
Thank you very much. My comment is about the staff time, which it seems like they're always under the gun. I know that council is very, very generous with their time, special meetings, and thank you. I can pretty much count on one hand the number of absences we've had in a long, long time. So thank you, councillors, for that. I believe that the 3 weeks between is a key piece to staff time. The issues seem to be more complicated, not less. And the other one is in terms of relative to the, it's a minor thing, is that the gallery attendance, we've been doing it for a year or so. As we see tonight, we've got 2 gallery members when something didn't hit the tabloid first item of conversation and those on. So I will be voting per the recommendation I put forward. Last chance, and then I'll call a motion.
Just one comment. The comment was made with respect to meetings that fall after the election date, but they are relevant. They have to be set now. They'll be in effect for the new council till the end of the year when they'll set the schedule for the following year. But they will apply.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, Peter, of course, I do understand that. The point I was trying to make is we have a new council coming in October. I'm pretty sure they're all going to be keen as punch to have 2 meetings in December. They're all going to want to get stuck in. So the point I was making is it's not impactful on this group necessarily, unless this is the same council that returns.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Either way, we'll make it work. It's,
here we go.
At the end of the day, whichever way you want to go, we'll make it work.
Thank you very much. So on that, I will call a motion. All those in favor is the motion that's on the floor. Please confirm by saying yes. Those opposed, no. What is that hand doing there? I am a yes.
No.
I would say that I'm a no based upon the planning. I found that having the 1st and 3rd as a set date was very helpful. Trying to fandangle special meetings and with everybody's schedule was problematic for myself. So yeah, I'm a no.
Councillor Barmier?
I have no preference. I'm on the fence. I'm going to just abstain on this.
Okay, Councillor Bain?
I'll have to go with my colleagues who are voting no.
Okay, by default, that takes us to, thank you. Then the motion is defeated, which takes us to the only other option, which is option 2. And I don't believe there's any amendments to that or the same amendments, CAO.
You just, in paragraph 1 of the recommendation, just change option 1 to option 2. The rest would stay the same.
Do you want to take a second? Are you good?
Yeah.
So we're done? Okay.
That's all that has to be done.
Councillor Abbott, you want to put forward the motion for number 2? Option 2?
Yes, I'd like to put forward that motion. Do I need to read it?
Okay. Substantially as it was before under option 1, the only change being instead of option 1 as amended, it'll be option 2 as amended. So you're good with that,
I'll
Councillor?
put that forward.
Thank you, Councillor Bain, will you second? Good. Any further discussion? Call a motion. All those in favor, please confirm by saying yes. Those opposed, no.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right, next piece up is, sorry. Oh, there, the reports, sorry, staff. Staring right at it. The staff, this is the CFO's financial work plan. And the motion is that will be received for information purposes. I'll put that forward and leave it here for now. CFO, if you'd like to carry forward.
Yes, so this is the finance work plan with the 2 options. So we know now we're going with option 2. So they were just for information purposes to see the deadlines and the progress, the work that we have to get done in the next few months. I presented it every year. There's a couple of things I wanted to point out. We had talked about this ever since the last budget, and we talked about, again, it's strategic, how I think it would be good to have a committee of the whole for the budget. That would be a meeting just dedicated to the budget. It's common practice with municipalities to have that initial presentation of the budget with all the detail. It provides a meeting just dedicated to the budget only. It allows time for a full kind of robust discussion of the budget, an opportunity for council to ask questions without time constraints. I find sometimes when I'm presenting the budget, if it's a loaded agenda, sometimes people get cut off with their questions. I just think it's an efficient way to do it, and I would propose that for February 8th. And under this scenario, that would be the February 8th, you'd see sort of the first draft of the budget. And then we would continue to have budget presentations at council, but because the bulk of questions had been answered and some direction had been given, we wouldn't have to spend as much time with the budget and the subsequent meetings. And then there was also a committee of the whole recommended for the May 3rd meeting for the approval of the financial statements. This is what we have done historically. Again, it's best practice. It's recommended by the auditors, but we had actually done it with the prior council as well, that it was on the day of a regular council meeting, but the meeting would start at 5:30. BDO, we'd have to, for that meeting, defer the closed meeting until after the regular meeting, but BDO would present the financial statements. And then the reason we have it as a committee of the whole is at that time, it goes into close and staff are excused. And this is the part that's common to practice, presentation of financial statements. It allows BDO to talk to the councillors and the councillors ask questions without staff being present. It usually doesn't take very long. Then you come back into open and then we would adjourn and then we would, it would probably finish around 6:45 and then we would go into the open meeting. So that's why I just had wanted to clarify. It says a committee of the whole, but it would be on the day of a regular council meeting. So other than that, that would be my recommendation, is having the committee of the whole for the budget on February 8th and having a committee of the whole for the financial statements.
Thank you very
And
much.
everything else ties in with the meeting schedule that we just reviewed.
Thank you very much. Questions, Councillor Abbott, you got your hands up. You first, and then I'll go through the other councillors.
Yeah, so as per my earlier suggestion, I don't see why we need the extra meeting on February the 8th. We could still do it on February the 15th, which is a council meeting. We could have a council meeting, and if there's nothing else to discuss, we just go into the committee of the whole, do the committee of the whole thing, and go back into the council meting. So I don't think we need that extra meeting.
Yeah, because I would envision like a 1.5 hour discussion on the budget. That was why, like say it's, I couldn't see how we could have a committee of the whole in a regular council meeting. I mean, that's what I'm finding with the budget. And we have discussed this before, is that we're just
sorry, Pam, what I'm suggesting is that we don't need to have additional items on that agenda. We could just leave that time slot as a council meeting and use it as a committee of the whole, and still have your hour and a half. There's no change. I'm just suggesting that's one extra meeting we do not need to have.
And I understand that, but when have we ever had an agenda that was just an hour? And I just don't see that happening with all the things that are happening. I just don't see that we could get through the regular agenda and still have an hour and a half of budget. That was why. I mean, I cannot remember a meeting that ever lasted an hour in my time here. So I'm so busy right now. I can't see an agenda.
On option one, you didn't have a meeting on that night. I'm saying on option two, we can still forego the council meeting that night and just have the committee of the whole. Nothing.
No, on option one, I still had a dedicated committee of the whole just for the budget, but it happened to be on the 15th because there was no council meeting on the 15th. Like under both scenarios, there was a committee of the whole just for the budget. I mean, if council doesn't feel it's necessary, that's fine. I was just making my case that I just find sometimes people seem cut off when they're trying to ask questions about the budget. You get all the questions out of the way and then we just move on, and it was for efficiency. But I mean, I'm also okay with doing it during a regular council meeting, but
I think what we're not prepared to do, and Councillor Abbott, I guess this is really the key piece that CFO Rook is mentioning. I mean, I get the idea if it's a small, I mean, a really small agenda, and we did spend an hour and a half. Fine, we could, as we've done with the closed session, left it going to open, and then we're going to go back to close. Same thing with the committee of the whole. My fear would be that we'd be sitting around at 11 or 11:30 if it was a very wholesome council meeting, and I don't think that would resonate so much with our colleagues.
So the solution would be to have a dedicated meeting on the 8th. If meeting is held on the 8th, if you have a committee of the whole meeting on the 8th, it's the initial presentation of the budget. It's the first look. It's a roll up your sleeves. Let's dive into it. Spend an hour and a half. That's the focus. There's nothing else to think about. There's nothing else to rush through. No need to get to any other items, get to a council agenda. It's just dedicated to just drilling down on the budget and giving some direction to the CFO to come back with the next round of look at the budget, see where we go from there. It's best practice. It's done in other communities. It's probably what we should do. And I think it's worth giving it a try. The emphasis has been suggested on keeping the meeting short. This would be an hour and a half. Let's not extend the meeting on the 15th for a late night session that's going to affect everybody and the content and the consideration of the things that are on the table at that point. So worth giving a try, and council's being asked to consider this request.
Okay, as a technicality, we're being asked to receive the report, so I think it's worth the other council. Thank you very much, Councillor Abbott, for raising this. So I'll just go through the other councillors just to get the flavor of this. So I'll be going to Councillor Bain, Councillor Barmier, Councillor Cunliffe, and I'll close myself. So the question is, are you happy with a separate date versus a regular council meeting for a committee of the whole session for the budget? Councillor Bain, how do you opine?
Again, being retired, I'm pretty much sitting on the fence on this one because for me personally, it doesn't really make much difference. Being in February, there's not a whole lot going on anyhow. I do have sympathies though for another meeting for our otherwise employed members. So that's a strong argument. Quite frankly, it's 50-50 with me. I see both sides of the argument, and
Okay, well, why don't we park you and you'll listen to your colleagues and we'll get to the answer. Councillor Barmier?
Yeah, I'm going to defer to staff on this. I think it should take no time to set a schedule. This is
Thank you very much. Councillor Cunliffe?
I would say if we can keep this to a succinct hour and a half, then that's fair. In theory, I do think we should fold this into a regular council meeting and table what is not really urgent for the meeting of the 15th to another date and time. That would then put us at, again, here we are with 3 meetings in February, and please bear in mind that Councillor Barmeyer and I do chair another committee of which we are having meetings with as well. So if it would be possible to put it all in one meeting and not have a special meeting, that would be my preference.
Thank you very much, Councillor Cunliffe. Could you remind me of the date? I'm just looking at the calendar now. CFO work.
February 8th.
So the proposal would be, as I understand it from Councillor Abbott, is that we would, hang on, looking at the wrong option, option number 2, so that we would have our regular meeting on the 15th, and that we would roll the committee of the whole into that. Versus when were you going to plan the committee of the whole as a separate date?
Presumably the committee of the whole would be first and then the council meeting, is that?
Yeah, you can't roll one into the other.
Well, we could do one, well, no, we'll just do a CO
Separate meeting.
committee of the whole, and we'll go into regular.
I think the proposal is February 8th for committee of the whole, or else just present the budget at the regular meeting of the 15th.
Okay, all right, I tell you what.
Sorry, that was
If I
not
was
the
voting,
suggestion.
yeah,
Sorry.
Councillor Abbott, just let me roll for this and I'll pitch it. If we were going to go to a vote, I would have the deciding vote on this one. So I get where it's working in terms of our colleagues who are working, I'll say 9 to 5, which is really 6 till 8. So I get that piece. I get the staff's perspective of fresh minds, fresh day. That's fine. I would be fine with it being, we do on the same day, we do a committee of the whole, then go into our regular meeting and closed meeting. But my proviso would be that we may cut the agenda down for that day, and I guess the CAO and I'll work with that. But council's going to know that we're going to pick what we can do and what can't. So we'll, the CAO will highlight that before we get to that. But I would be fine with doing it on the one day, with it being the lead to the regular meeting. And the regular meeting, we would stop at 10 o'clock or very close to it. We'll go, although Councillor Abbott, are you supportive of that? And then I'll go to Councillor Bain.
Yes, I am supportive of that. I'll just clarify. I'm actually, what I'm suggesting is for the February, we're going back to the staff's preferred option, because we have the committee of the whole instead of the meeting on the 15th. We don't add the February 8th meeting. In both scenarios, your next council meeting is March 1st anyway. So I'm actually trying to suggest something that marries your original request. Anyway, I agree with what you suggested. I would be in favor of that.
Okay, but your original plan was actually that we dice the regular meeting and just do a CO committee of the whole on the 15th.
Well, I understand you can't just dice it. So you have a committee of the whole meeting, you have a very short council meeting, you open it and say nothing to discuss in the council meeting and close it. I thought you could go back to do the committee of the whole second and go back to it. But if it has to be the other way around,
okay,
whatever the procedure.
Well, we'll let the fine minds figure that one out. Thanks, Councillor Bain.
Yeah, I was just looking at the calendar as you were speaking and noting that there's the 1st and the 15th on February and the 1st and the 15th on the March. So I think the 15th would be an ideal meeting that you could clip and carry over some of the things from that you otherwise would have had there and put it onto the March 1st one. And I think the idea of doing the committee of the whole discussion on the 15th with a regular council meeting could very well work.
Okay, I'm going to take the bull by the horns on this one. So I think the 15th CFO, the 15th, I'm sure you can work around this, but the caveat is that we would start at whatever our regular time is, and we would end at our regular time around 10. The committee of the whole is the important piece. It will lead. We will close that meeting, then go into open, into a regular council meeting.
Maybe instead of starting at 6, we start at 5:30 for the committee of the whole for the budget, and then we've got an hour and a half, and then at 7 o'clock we start the regular meeting.
Would that work for everybody else? If we started at 5?
That was actually going to be my suggestion, that we look to start a little earlier that day. So yeah, I'm definitely in favor of that.
Thank you very much. Next time, don't hold your hand up, jump out and speak. Good, thank you. I like that one too. So I think we're coming to this that we'll leave this with staff to meld the two, the committee of the whole budget thing and a regular council meeting. And there we go. So we get the full workday out of both. I'm going to put that forward as the recommendation to staff, since we're being asked to receive the information and the date. So if everybody's fine with that, just nod or yes, that's fine, and then we'll move on.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. We're good. And before I forget, Carla, could you please, now that we've made a decision on the date and for CFO Rook's piece, could you send out calendar invites to everybody this week so that on the calendar? Thank you very much. CFO, we're not letting you get away. It's the audit planning recommendation and that the BDO audit planning report be received for information purposes. I'll put that forward and off you go.
So I guess you're getting familiar with this. It comes this time every year. It's BDO's audit planning report, which is actually addressed to mayor and council, and it's an outline of what their audit plan would be. There's no significant changes from last year. And the purpose is I bring it to mayor and council to answer any questions, and then I just advise the auditors that you have received it. So I guess if there's any questions, and just to clarify, the audit is this year is April 11th to April 14th, and it's being done remotely again this year. So if there's any questions about the report.
Good. Colleagues, any questions? Let's go direct. Just unmute and off you go. Same auditor? CFO?
Oh, yes, BDO.
Same partner?
Yes.
All three staff are exactly the same.
Yeah, which is actually huge for us because there's a lot of turnover, and we were very lucky that it's actually the Cayenne who's the audit manager. We've been very lucky that we've had her for several years in a row. It really does make the audit go much smoother because there's not that learning curve of learning how we do things.
The presentation looked different, which caught my eye. So I went and looked at the old one. All they've done is change how they present it. It's got the same people, same 3% for what is significant. All the numbers are the same.
I did the same thing. It looked dramatically different. So I thought, oh, they changed it. And it's a little bit shorter. I think they weeded some stuff out. There's more things where you clicked on to get the detail, but yeah, I had the same impression that it was, that they changed it, but they hadn't.
Good. All right, I've got the motion to receive. Can I have a second, please? Thank you. All in favor, confirm yes. Thank you. Received. There you go. Thanks very much, CFO. And chief, hope you had your glass of water with you. Next, you're on the AP listings, and that's for information purposes. Let's just bypass you, go right to the counselors.
I think so.
Thank you, counselors. Please take out your magnifying glasses for that incredibly small print with those incredibly largely small numbers. Any questions? This is the time.
Go first if no one else wants to.
You're up, Councillor.
My questions might be more for Nye than the CFO this time, or the workshop manager, should I say. Something, I didn't count them, but something like a dozen or 11 visits from North Shore Pest Detective, which didn't seem normal to me. Is there something going on that we need to know about? Or did I just not notice it before?
No, you're very keen in picking up these things. We had a infestation at the fire training compound. So that's what resulted in the excessive number of calls. I have plenty of graphic photos of critters that were trapped and captured. So if anybody's interested, just let me know.
Okay, I noticed there was 3 trips to the Clatts building as well, and then the others just seem to be 1 or 2.
Yeah,
I appreciate you not sharing, Nye, but you know,
okay.
the offer is very generous.
The majority of that was at the fire training compound.
Maybe just mislabeled as the Clatts building. Okay.
All right. Okay, let's move off rats. Councillor
Let's
Abbott,
move off
anything else?
Okay. Nice. Sea to sky invasive species. I know we budget this every year. Is that the budget? 8,400.
Yes.
Did it all
Yes,
happen
exactly.
this month?
It's exactly the budget, yes.
Okay.
That was sort of the final invoice. It was several visits on one invoice, but yes, they invoiced us exactly what they planned based on the budget, and that's what we get invoiced.
Okay. Another big number for no other reason than just that it's big. Software fees, 14,600. Is that typical?
And what page is that?
Oh, invoice. It's check number 28977. Sorry, I'm looking at my Excel spreadsheet you gave me, so I have to go back.
No, I think they're in check order number 28977.
Yeah. Amy's technology, Angel software fees, $14,600. Is that normal?
Oh, that's the, yes, that's annual, and that's just our software fees for all our Microsoft licenses. There might have been a few other things on the budget, on the invoice, because you're limited on what you can write for the description, but that is, we get that in December every year, and it's for the following year. That would have actually gone into prepaid expenses, and it's all of our software licenses for every computer. And
quite a high number. Fire department Christmas dinner. I assumed you're going to tell me that this is funds they raised themselves. $5,000 Christmas dinner over 2 line items. This is not taxpayer money, right?
it was actually, it's those back and forth checks. The Christmas party was 3,000. Generally, it's this year, again, it was partly because they didn't have their training meals because of COVID. It's something we normally pay for. The Christmas party this year was $3,000, and 2,000 of it was funded by Lions Bay. So that's a check. It was actually the $3,000 check written to pay for the dinner from the fire fund, and then a $2,000 check that went from Lions Bay to fire. So it was $3,000 in the past, it's being $2,000. But it was a little bit higher this year because again, they didn't, on their Wednesday training, we pay for, like they buy food and they have meals. And again, for a big part of last year that was cut. So Chief Oliver requested a little bit extra for the Christmas party. So it's not $5,000, it was $3,000. $1,000 was funded by fire and $2,000 was funded by Lions Bay, but we still came well under in our meals and entertainment budget because of so much of the training that was not in person. They still have the training by Zoom, but of course, when they have it by Zoom, they don't get a meal.
Okay, Councillor Abbott, any more? Or otherwise,
Yeah, it's another observation for the workshop manager. We trained 4 people to do welding courses. Is there something behind that, or what kind of welding business? 4 people went on welding courses in this period.
Yeah, so each of the employees is required to take a certain number of CEUs, and the welding course is a structural welding course. With the absence of Mr. Mullen, who left us to go to Comox, we don't really have anybody certified as a welder, but we do have the equipment. So in order for them to use the equipment, they needed to at least take the basics to become, to get a certification.
That's all I've got. Thanks.
Okay.
thank you very much. I'll go next, and I'll go to Councillors Bain, Boromir, and Cunliffe. There are 2 items for Lidstone, and appreciating that they are our corporate lawyer, I won't get into it. The one is a large one, and it's a trust check, and I think it's for in the high 30,000s, I think. As it says in the description, it's for land purchase, and the council will know what that is. That's fine. But I'm pleased to see for the 3 months that our ongoing bill to Lidstone was, for lack of a better word, $1,700. So kudos to CAO and the team for keeping that down, given the things that we've been facing lately. I have no other questions. Councillor Bain, do you have any?
None for me. I'm fine.
Thank you. Councillor Boromir? Good. Councillor Cunliffe?
Nope, I'm good, thanks, yeah.
Good. Councillor Cunliffe, will you second me to receive?
I am seconding you to receive. Thank you very much, Pam.
All in favor, please confirm saying yes. Oh, Councillor
Yeah.
Abbott.
Oh.
Thank you. Before we go, Councillor Abbott?
It's okay. I'll send it to you afterwards. I think your math was wrong on the Lidstone thing. I was just checking on my spreadsheet. But anyway, it's fine. I'll take my hand down.
Okay, good. Thanks.
I'll send you a note afterwards.
Thank you. Thank you for not correcting me in public. And all of you should take that lead. Thank you. And you too, CAO.
Wishful thinking, Mayor McLaughlin. Wishful thinking.
There you go. Thank you. There we go. CFO, I hope you've got your glass of water there. The draft water, sewer, and solid waste budgets, which is for council, as you're scrolling, is on page 67 of your budget. And the recommendation is that these 3 budgets be received for information purposes. So I'll put that forward. CFO, you have the floor.
So these, as the report says, are the draft water, solid waste, and sewer budgets. The purpose is, it's a little unusual, it's to set the rates because we have to send the utility bills out in February, and we do our best to estimate expenses and assess the rate accordingly. Some of these expenses, like for example, we don't know what the insurance is going to be. We won't know to the end of the month. So I've just got a placeholder in there. But either way, even if some of the expenses change, it wouldn't change sort of what my recommendation is for the user rate. So if we start with the water, I have some sort of explanations of variances, but you'll notice this year that our amortization, my estimated amortization is 219,000. And we've had this ongoing discussion about, we really do need to start budgeting for some of the depreciation. So right now we have a water surplus, an estimated water surplus of around 60,000, but that of course is without counting the depreciation. So that surplus would cover 27% of the depreciation. And we're finding more and more, it is very soon going to be a requirement to start budgeting for depreciation. And I've commented with the grants that with this recent ISIP grant application that we're completing, it has actually changed since the phase 2 we submitted. There's additional asset management questions. There's actually more asset management questions in any other category, including a description in your justification for the project. And the final report that I'm doing for our last grant, which is the water tank, as I think I discussed it, the strategic planning, I have to graph it and I have to show them over the next 20 years how much money we should be putting aside to replace all of our water assets. And the next step will be that we'll have to show some sort of evidence that we're starting to do that. So that was one of the ways I came about with the 5%. It equates to an $85 increase over last year's rates. And then, so I don't know if we wanted to do it, if you wanted me to talk about all 3 funds, or if you wanted to do it fund by fund. Is there a preference?
Keep going.
So for solid waste, we have, as you know, we've extended our contract with Waste Control for an additional year, and they've indicated that although overall their prices are increasing 5%, they've indicated that ours would just increase 3%. So I've done a budget running through with that 3% increase, but I'm able to actually balance the budget and still have a tiny bit of surplus with a 0% increase in user rates. And that's because every year I increase the budget based on, if it's a 3% increase, it's based on the prior year's rates. And there's been a few years where Waste Control has estimated what their cost increases would be, and they haven't been as much, and then they haven't passed them on. And then in addition, we no longer have to pay the North Shore Transfer Station Agreement. It's now self-funding, so they don't need additional money from municipalities. So I was able to basically balance the budget without, normally I would have had to put a 3% increase in fees to cover off the 3% increase in costs, but I didn't have to do that. And then otherwise, the solid waste budget is fairly straightforward. It's just we have the expenses and then we pass them on and collect them through water fees. Oh, I'm sorry, through the solid waste fees. Now with the sewer budget, it's quite different from the water budget. It's partly because, of course, we have a smaller base from which we can collect the sewer fees, and we had a few years of 0%. So if you see the budget, even with a 5% increase in fees, which I put in sort of as a recommendation, we're still going to have a deficit. We'll have to draw from sewer surplus in order for this budget to balance. So we're inherently we're not putting anything through for depreciation. And just to keep that in perspective, the annual depreciation just on the wastewater treatment plant is $28,000 a year. Plus we have aging sewer pipes, which will have to be replaced, not for a while, but that will be the next big expense faced by sewer. But like I say, there's no way we could tax to cover that deficit. It would just be an enormous increase in sewer fees. So I put in a 5% increase, which equates to a $43 increase, just to sort of demonstrate to council what that looks like. And we're still left with a sewer deficit. So sort of overall, that was kind of my presentation. So I guess if anyone has any questions about these budgets?
Me first. Sorry, Councillor Barmera, I saw your hand up just as I put my eyes up, but I'll go to you next. What if you had your druthers CFO, what would you like to see for an AM number?
I think it's just a first step towards, I wouldn't recommend doing all of the depreciation. We have an infrastructure levy and we do have time to collect, and we also have to weigh it against, affordability. But I do like the fact that for the first time in a while, the water budget would have a surplus, and the idea is that would go towards depreciation, would go into the water surplus to pay for future.
Okay, thanks.
So I'm pretty comfortable with this.
Good. Councillor Barmera?
Yeah, I think it was a similar question to yours, Ron. I guess I was curious if it made sense to have a line item showing sort of the bank balance for asset replacement under each category. Would that just make it a little bit more clear how much money is in the kitty and gets moved over to future replacement of the asset?
Well, I think basically that's what that $59,000 is. That would be this, would go into water surplus, and then the surplus sits there for future replacement of assets.
So you would see that number growing year after year from 59 and up?
Yes, like we, when we present the financial statements, I can show, you know, the balances of all the surplus accounts, and this money would go into that. And then if we finish more favorable, there's been years where, you know, we were under budget with some items, and that flows to surplus, and then that goes into the water surplus.
Yeah, okay. I just, from a from a terminology perspective and then just sort of public digestion of the numbers, I just wondered if it might make more sense to use something more intuitive so people know that we're saving for the future, you know, in really plain language.
Yeah, and I would, that would be something we would highlight in the the utility brochure that goes out with the bills. We would say, these are the increases, and then we would explain what it's going towards, and letting them know that, you know, there's 5% increase, but the money is going towards future replacement of assets.
Thanks, Pam.
Go left to right, Councillor Abbott, then Councillor Bain, and then Councillor Cunliffe.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry, I was going next.
Yep, you are.
Similar to what Councillor Barmer had just said, I think that's a good idea. I'm not opposed to raising taxes for assets that are depreciating that we need to replace. But I do like the idea of it below the line and clearly spelt out. I mean, if we showed something that said, you know, the water budget is, we're suggesting a 0% increase for the water budget because we have, we think we can have a surplus, but we want to take 5% increase in any case to put towards depreciation. I think that shows a better picture and shows a greater degree of responsibility. But this might seem like Groundhog Day for a few of you from the previous sessions, and this is the last time on this council we're going to do this. But in order to support that, I would like to see sort of focus on us trying to keep the costs down to as closely as we can, or be as frugal as we possibly can. So if I look at the line item for maintenance, and this is where you say, oh, you heard this before. I look at the line item for maintenance. 2021 actual was $90,000. We need an extra $55,000 for, what was that line item to? For condition assessments and cleaning of the water tanks. So, you know, if we could do maintenance exactly as we did last year, at 90,000 plus the 55,000, why do we need to have a $160,000 budget? Can we set ourselves a target of 145? I just feel we should look at what actually happened each year and try reduce that amount, or at no worse, go over it, and we should try set ourselves targets and work towards it. That's not what we seem to do.
Yeah. I guess I would draw your attention then to 2020. It was 128. And that's the challenge with maintenance in water, particularly with our aging assets. We can't operate at a deficit. And we don't spend money just because it's there. Like, I totally agree with your point, and we put a lot of thought into this. But if we don't spend it, we don't need it, we don't spend it, and then it flows to surplus and it goes into the water surplus. I can assure you we never spend money just because it's in the budget. In fact, staff take pride in trying to find savings, and but we also are not allowed to operate at a deficit. So it's kind of that catch-22. But basically, if we don't spend the 160, it will just flow into surplus. And I would still recommend, even if I lowered that budget, that we still keep the increase at 5%, because we need to start putting money aside for future replacement of assets. So, I mean, I totally get your point, and we go over this budget line by line. And one of the things we also do, and we'll talk more about it when I do the budget, our whole process of budgeting that in a lot of municipalities, they'll budget something, and if they don't use it, it just flows to surplus, and then they ask for the money again the next year. And we don't do that. And that's why I make a point of really showing the rebudgets, that if we don't spend the money, then we rebudget it, and I don't tax for it again. So, I take your point. We did only spend 89, but we also looked at the fact we spent 128 the year before. And we did have a lot of expenses come at the end of the year with items that unbudgeted that we had to replace. Because if you go down to materials and supplies and equipment, we budgeted 48 and we spent 56. But we still lowered the budget because we went through line by line and we realized these items had failed towards the end of the year and we had to replace them. But now they're replaced and they'll be good for a few more years. So we didn't have to budget as much in 2022. Because I find with the utility budgets, like I say, of the 5%, that's raising 47,000, but I'm still actually, expenses are only going up 2%, and we're actually putting almost 60,000 in the surplus. So we're actually there's been savings in the expenses to allow us to put more than just the 5% increase into surplus. It's a challenge budgeting, especially water, because we're finding the maintenance.
I just feel if we can set these caps and these budgets to give ourselves a challenge, and then somehow, even if we did ask for 5%, but then we can't use contingencies. I get you're not allowed to have a contingency line. But it would just increase the surplus line, right?
Well, the only way I can increase the surplus line is by increasing revenue, or like I say, decreasing expenses. But what I'm saying is we will spend what we have to spend. Just because the budget's 160, we won't spend 160, but I have to have enough in there.
But Pam, it's also human nature. If people have got a budget of 160, they have that fact in mind. They don't get, they're not panicking if they spend 80 in the first year. But if they have a budget in mind of 90 and they spend 80 in the first 6 months of the year, they're going to go, oops, I've got to do something here. It's just human nature. It helps.
Yeah,
it helps you to be frugal.
That's not what we do here. First of all, the guys they don't really even know the details of the budget line by line. When they need something, they ask for it. And sometimes we say no. If we absolutely don't need it, then we wait to next year. We're small here. We don't have
yourself and I are looking at those numbers though.
But the requests come from staff. It's for example, Alberto, he'll say, look, we've had this failure. We had $20,000 of expenses in December that weren't budgeted for, and we were able to do them because we needed it, and then it impacted how we budgeted the following year.
I guess I'm going to suggest that we move along. I understand why you do it, but I was kind of feeding off Councillor Baumeyer and this idea of having a below the line item that shows surplus growing for depreciation. Let's move on.
Thank you, Councillor Abbott.
Sorry, I was going to move on to my next point. I was going to stop talking. The rebudget thing, and once again we discussed this. So, rock slope remediation, we had 20,000 last year. We didn't do anything. To my mind, we expect to do about 20,000 a year. Now we've rebudgeted the 20 and added another 20. So are we really going to do $40,000 worth of rock?
Yeah, we are. And this is the first time we've done this. Usually if we don't spend it, we just rebudget and do the same one. But it had actually been scheduled, and there were things that happened and it got delayed, and then the weather. We're doing that because both, it's a safety issue as well. We really need to do both. And one's for Magnesia, one's for Harvey. I think the public works manager can speak more to this, but to your point, we did really think about that, but we really think it's actually necessary for a lot of reasons. We'll do one at the beginning of the year and one later in the year, but we do intend to do 2 this year, but I can have Nye speak to that as well.
Yeah, so we had scheduled rock slope remediation at MAG this winter. The contractor was scheduled to come in November, mid-November, due to the weather and all of the issues that we had around the weather. They were not able to do it. We are obligated to do rock slope remediation through a work safe order. WorkSafe BC order. It's designed to protect staff members on the access road to and from the intakes. So it's something that we do every year. We do alternate. 1 year we do Mag, 1 year we do Harvey. And again, we're scheduled to do Harvey in 2022, but Mag was delayed due to weather. So our intent is to do both, to do Mag and Harvey this year, and then get back on schedule.
Okay. UBC hydrology study contribution. This is $2,000 in kind, correct?
No, it's cash. And I do have an update on that because I know it has been rebudgeted in perpetuity, but I've been working with Dr. Weiss, the UBC professor who does this study. And every year I ask him, I'd like to write the check, and he's been waiting to find kind of a project to use it for. So he's now has applied for a grant. I had to actually complete part of the grant where our 12,000 will be the funding, and then he'll get a grant of about 20,000. And the idea is, if successful, it will fund a PhD student, a part-time PhD student, to work on this project. So in that case, it's just been his reluctance to sort of, I guess, take the money and sort of lose it. It's better if he waits until he has something he can apply the money to, but it's not in kind. There is an in-kind portion as well to the agreement that we've provided with staff time, but this is actually a monetary contribution that we've agreed to, $2,000 a year. So I'm very hopeful that I'll finally be able to cut a check in 2022 for this.
Yeah, it's always confusing me why we kept rebudgeting it every year if we weren't giving it.
Yeah, it's been a back and forth with me and him for the length of the agreement, just saying, please, can I send you the money? And he says, well, I'd rather wait until there's a grant opportunity and then get more value for the money.
Cutting a $12,000 check, and someone's going to see it in the AP report and say, what are we giving him $12,000 for?
Yeah, exactly.
All right. I'll wait for that moment. Secondary suites. The number's marginally different. Not sure why it's marginally different, but did you do some sort of forecast based on us approving this bylaw that's coming up later?
No, I thought about it, but I really have no idea how to estimate it. And because there is a bit of a surplus, I budgeted what last year's budget was less than the actual. We had 2 more in 2021. So I basically budgeted 2 less than what we have. And then until we get a sense of it, I just really have no idea. And it could take a while to have an impact anyway, because anybody who's rented their suite, it wouldn't be until their current tenant left that they would then consider renting to a firefighter. So there might be a delayed impact, but I kind of thought the status quo might be better. Like I said, I didn't increase it for the 2 additional ones we had, but until we get a sense of, the impact this is going to have. And it wouldn't have an impact on really the rate that I would set for the increase. So I just decided to leave it as it was.
My gut feel tells me we might not be getting a big change there, to be honest. Note number 2, this is really not a budgeting question, but this direct municipal funding no longer required to recycling depots and waste. And I kind of missed that memo. Does it change anything on which waste recycling depots we're allowed to use? No, I guess this is a question for you. The fact that we don't contribute anymore? Can we go use anything? Could we go out to sites, Squamish now if we chose, or are we still stuck at always going to North Van?
We're stuck going to metro facilities.
Yeah, the only change
is,
was, sorry, go ahead.
Squamish is not a metro facility.
Yeah, the only reason we're not paying it is we were notified that they no longer needed us to help fund it. I mean, everything stays the same. We just don't have to contribute $1,500.
They changed the funding model across the board for their facilities.
It's metro only. Okay.
Yeah. So no impact to the service. We just don't have to pay $1,500 anymore.
I thought it might have been a provincial thing the way it was written, but it's metro. Okay.
Yep.
think I'm getting to the end here. 1 second. What the heck was this?
Are you good, Councillor Abbott?
Yeah, I have one note. I had one note on the sewer thing, but I'm not sure what I meant. One last thing. So this smoke testing and pump outs for the sewage, the treatment plant, is that that's an annual requirement now, is it no?
What page are you on?
Sorry, page 73, Pam's notes, note 2, sewer budget, 10,000.
No, that's not
testing.
annual. That's once every 5 years. The 25K for pump outs is annual, but the smoke testing is not.
Right, got to the end of my questions. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much. I'm going to go to Councillor Bain, Councillor Bromere, and then Councillor Cunliffe to conclude. But I mean, I think the key piece for me and Councillor Bromere and Councillor Abbott, and I understand the struggle on the CFO is on the let's call it the overage allocation for amortization or whatever. I'm wondering if this council may not be here in a year from now. I think this might be worth discussion during the strategy session for the new council, because I kind of like the idea of a line item myself. It goes right to where's the money going and why is it going there? And I mean, for this particular one, I'm fine with it. But I think for future councils, they'd be basically going through the same work that the three of us have already said. So if you're fine with that, you can make a mental note for that. And I'm sure that's good with my two colleagues. Thank you. Councillor Bain, any comments, any questions?
No, anything I thought has already been answered. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Barmere?
Yeah, no, thanks. Nothing additional to add.
There you go. Councillor Cunliffe?
Yeah, I'll echo those sentiments as usual. Councillor Abbott covered off everything. So thank you for that. Mine was to the sewer and that was well explained. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Can I get you to second the receipt of the item then, Councillor Cunliffe?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Yes. Those opposed, no.
Yes.
Thank you. Passed. The CAO, who would have thought that we had a little antenna running out there, pumping stuff, doing weird things? It's your call, CAO?
Yeah, so this was a historical thing that was in place when I came along. And then we're actually in the process of sort of circling around to it at the time and thinking we should do something to formalize it or have discussion about it with the party when they indicated that they were in discussions with Base Technology to just take it over. And so that morphed into the situation that is set out on the bottom paragraph of page 1 of the report, whereby they basically stick handled the matter for us with Shaw, who was fairly difficult to deal with at the time. And we had a pretty poor internet service at the Public Works Yard with the TELUS landline that was in place. So at the end of the day, what we ended up with was a top-notch, high-speed internet service at no cost to us, provided by Base, and in exchange for allowing for the equipment to remain on the roof for the limited service that it provides to residents on Gambier. And then now Base is getting out of that business and looking to assign its assets to Raincoast Network. So we did do our due diligence in terms of Raincoast, and they are expanding fairly rapidly, it seems, throughout the coastal areas, up the Sunshine Coast and some of the smaller islands. And I know that they're very highly regarded on Savory Island. from the feedback that I got on Facebook. Pretty much 20 out of 20 versus TELUS. And yeah, they've sort of been essentially looking to transition, and it's basically sort of one of those operational things, really, in terms of the services that we provide for the operations of the organization. But I thought it was appropriate at this time to bring it forward, let you know that it exists and that it's out there, and fill you in on it. Those will get your feedback and hopefully your approval as well at the same time. Any questions, that sort of thing.
There you go. I'll put forward the motion. Thank you very much. That Public Works Yard rooftop antenna and internet service agreement with Raincoast Networks Limited, dated for reference December 16, 2021, be approved, and 2, that the corporate office should be authorized to execute the agreement. Put that forward. Kind of a hand for a second. Any discussion, questions for the CIO?
Just one question I have. I'm just curious, reading through the material, that I'm wondering about the gigabyte usage. I don't know how much that could be, but it looks to me from what I see on page 77 that we're to pay for the gigabyte usage for us and Raincoast. Is that true? And if so, is there any limits to it, or?
The 300 megabytes download speed, is that what you're referring to?
Well, I was thinking more about the total gigabytes. For example, you can buy your internet connection with a certain level of usage, but not megabits per second, but the actual consumption of all the megabytes, if I could put it that way. And I was just wondering, with our home connection and everything, we could put unlimited and it's got one price, or we could have a low amount volume and it would be a different one. So I'm kind of wondering, is this?
They're not similar, Councillor Bain. This is a business internet service.
Okay.
So we're guaranteed minimum of 300 megabits per second, and it's unlimited. And we don't pay for that. It's covered through the cost that base and Raincoast will pay now.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Excuse me.
Yeah, I only had one comment or observation. I'm pleased to see this got a very short-term period that gives us flexibility if something changes. So I was kind of looking for that when I saw it, but Peter had it covered.
Councillor Barmier, Councillor Cunliffe, any questions?
Yeah, just curious. So this ends up being a resource positive, like it ends up being cash flow for us a little bit, or?
Yeah, we don't have to pay for internet, business internet, the work yard, and we didn't have to pay for the capital upgrade. It was all covered by Base Wireless and Raincoast.
Nice. Okay, great.
Thank you very much.
I'm good. Thank you. Nye?
There you go. Is there any way Public Works Manager, Councillor Cunliffe, can feed off this little deal?
Can I tap in? Yes.
It looks like a garden hose going from her house down the hill.
That part to run a cable.
Maybe you won't notice it when you drive over it.
Yes, but admitted publicly.
Just saying, Councillor Cunliffe, there's choices here.
There's options. I appreciate it. Thank you.
That's my late Christmas gift for you. There you go. Okay, thank you. Call the motion. All in favor, please confirm by saying yes. Opposed, no. Thank you, Carrie.
Yes.
And thank you. All these things should be so interesting. The regional contact statement. Recommendation is that Council provide direction to staff with respect to proposed amendments to the RCS incorporated into the official committee plan. We'll see any consequential amendments to the plan. I'll put that forward. Councillor Abbott, will you second me?
Yes.
Thank you. And I think if I can say a lot of, again, continual heavy lifting by Councillor Abbott. Thank you for getting us here. And I have the joy of having a paper copy versus you guys that are looking on screen. So the squiggles, the crossovers, the colors, it's a work of art to say the least. But I think we are pretty close to finalizing this between where representing the council members, Councillor Abbott was, and where I thought CAO DeJong was. So what I'll do is, rather than going through the whole works, if that's fine with everybody, I'll hand this back to Councillor Abbott to steer us to the 2 points that I think it was 2 that you thought we might do some minor wordsmithing on or make amendments. If that's fine with you, Councillor Abbott.
Sure, if that's where everyone's comfortable doing it, we don't need to go through all the comments. You suggest we just go to the ones where it seemed like there was something to be discussed, or there's some
I'm having known my colleagues on this side of the table for a bit here. I'm sure they'd rather get to the key point and not go through all the squiggles and strikeouts.
Okay. All right. Well then, yeah, Peter, feel free to drag me back if I gloss over something. But so there are a few numbers that need to be checked. The staff need to go confirm. I did look at the census and pick a number, but the definition is not always clear. So we'll gloss over those. Then we had this suggestion about the school field. Peter, my comment on the school field is it's listed as one of our assets. I understand we get to use it and it's not owned by us, but it should really be listed under assets.
My comment was to strike it. It's not our asset.
Oh, okay. Oh, good. So, right. No, I thought I'd made that clear. Anyway, I think we're on the same page. Good. Okay. And then, yeah, some more numbers to check on Kelvin Grove parking, the count.
Yeah.
One question that didn't get answered, this statement about 3 buildable lots plus 6 steep lots. You good with us striking that? You didn't actually comment on that.
Sorry, which page?
Yeah, page. Sorry, I'm just going down the document.
Of the agenda?
Yeah, I'm going back. 87.
87 and
Where? Oh,
in a comment 9.
Top left. Yeah.
did the 3 include the 2 we sold? Oh, yeah, so there was a report in 2018 with the last council that I did with respect to the supposed lots on Crystal Falls neighborhood. And there's really nothing there. There's road right. Those lots were subsumed or got the proper terminology, but the province basically gave them back to us as road right of way, portions thereof anyways. And a field examination of what we're left with was, not much to work with. And so, I mean, I can forward you the report that was done.
No, I do remember all that. I think we're in agreement. Okay. So we're in agreement, we'll just strike that then.
Yeah, so when you say, did the 3 include the 2 we sold, do you mean the...
Yeah, I was thinking...
52 Brunswick,
yes.
Was the Crystal Falls Road end. But that's the only thing that we've done down there. The other one was Kelvin Grove. Yeah.
So, yeah, I thought those 3 referred to 52 Brunswick and the Kelvin Grove lot.
Okay.
In which case it should now be, well, I don't know. Do we need to revise the statement, or are we just going to strike it through, I guess is the question.
I think just strike it.
I'm good with that. Okay. Okay, then on the bottom of page 88, I struck through this, but what I was striking out was the development permit application part of it, not the statement that comes out of the OCP. I just was wondering about, are we suggesting that, are we linking this to DPAs? So, or can we just end the statement with consistent with this goal, period? Or is this, or are you suggesting there should be some sort of link to the DPAs? And that was the part I wanted to strike. Just take out the DPA part, leave the statement as it is. That comes from the OCP.
Are you talking about the bottom of page 88?
You're talking the
So
last paragraph, right?
Last paragraph on page 88. So as it reads, and so existing future demographic and social economic composition consistent with this goal, considering development permit applications. And then you'd said taken from 4.3.
Yeah. So what I put in there is the part that's in blue, to provide alternative housing for a broader array of the community's existing and future demographic and social composition. That's directly the wording out of 4.3.
Okay. Okay, I'm good. I'm with you then. So, so you agree with what I struck out, but you've just replaced it with something from 4.3.
Yeah, I just kind of tweaked it a little bit to, take out the specifics and just make sure that it's just basically saying they're consistent with the residents' vision for the future.
Yeah, no, I wasn't sure where the comment was directed, so I thought maybe you were suggesting we shouldn't strike out that other part. Okay, I'm with you. We're all on the same page.
Okay.
And then the next page, we're going to remove the table.
Yeah.
Good. And other comments, you agree, it looks fine.
So the comment or the change that I made to strategy 1.3 at the bottom of page 89 is actually what I consider to be quite important. So what it says now is, by designating itself as rural, Lions Bay will be in a strong position to ensure any future development is at a level consistent with its own vision of its unique rural character. And the idea there is to emphasize that it is the municipality's role, according to Metro 2040, it's the municipalities, it's within our purview to define policies that are consistent with our vision of rural. And that's the part that we really need to own. That's going forward. That's what we need to protect. And because whatever that may be, however that ends up fulfilled or fleshed out, we want that to be that this is Lions Bay's vision of what's rural, regardless of whether Metro thinks, well, that doesn't line up with what our vision of rural is. Doesn't matter. We want it to emphasize that it's what our vision of rural means that's important. So I just want to point that out at this point in time, and going forward, something to keep in mind.
Yeah, I was okay with it when I read it. Sure, I don't. What anyone else's opinion on that? I think the mayor's opinion. He was looking for something like this. So
I actually, from my perspective, that particular section defines Lions Bay. It's ambiguous enough, but we own it, so I like it.
Commit us to anything one way or the other. It commits us to deciding for ourselves. I'm okay with that.
I would concur as well.
Our vision of rural is the OCP as it stands at the moment until we revise it. So, I mean, that's the way it's meant to work.
And then we can define our own version of rural when we do an OCP review. So I think this is a good statement.
Or leave it as it is. Okay.
That being said as well, Councillor Abbott.
So I think everything else is sort of, I don't think there was any disagreement on any other points.
I'm just flicking through it. Yeah.
And can we see a How do you want to go with this, Councillor Abbott? Do you want to see a double final cleaned up copy? And then,
Well, we got the cleaned up copy is going to come back to the next meeting for a reading, right?
Yeah, the idea would be clean it up, plug in the missing numbers or, fix them. Well, I might circulate, I'll probably circulate something once I've gone through that process with staff, send it around. And then the cleaned up final version will get attached as a schedule to the amending bylaw, first and second reading. Oh, there was one other thing, and don't. Oh yeah, it wasn't on this document, but it was something when I did a search through the rest of the OCP for the words rural or urban. There is one appearance of the word rural in sections 9.1, which is on HG.
Yeah, it refers to semi-rural, correct?
So, yeah, it refers to semi-rural, and it does so twice. I would suggest that we just change that to rural.
Yeah, I'm good with that as well. My initial thought was, it was some generic use of the term semi-rural when it's not the designation as seen by Metro in the 2040. So my first thought was, why not just leave it and then not touch the OCP main body itself at all? But to change it to rural is, I'm good either way. Changing it to rural has merit as well, I guess. It's cleaner.
That's a good point as well.
I don't know if anyone else wants to weigh in on that.
I'm fine with rural as well.
I look forward to the next meeting so we can push this out the door. Okay. CAO, any last comment?
What's the decision? Are we going to take semi-rural out and make it rural? Is that what Fred's suggesting? I'm okay with that if that's what he's suggesting.
I agree.
Okay. Good, Councillor Abbott. Thank you very much. Thank you to you and the CAO for doing this. We look forward to seeing it in a nice way next time out, which is 2 weeks away. And that concludes that. Oh, so we're in discussion. So direction. So we give direction to staff. I think let's just do a vote on that to confirm the resolution stands. Councillor Abbott, will you confirm? You're muted.
Sorry, I was muted. Yes, I would confirm and put forward the resolution as it stands, as written.
Thank you very much. All in favor, please confirm by saying yes.
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 Carrie, and we look forward to seeing it. Thank you again, Councillor Abbott and the CEO for this. Next up is reports. And this is, I don't have one, but I've been reflecting since we made our vote on the calendar for the rest of the year. The piece that's missing is that staff has asked for 3 weeks between meetings versus the 2 for many of the meetings, not all, but many. So I think that I'm going to ask staff to be realistic with their time, because we've had some very large packages. It may well be with 2 weeks that some things just aren't going to make it. And I'm fine with that because council has given you the mandate. We don't expect you to work any longer, harder, or louder. But so for the CAO, choose what comes forward. And if it's not on, then it goes to the next one. Nothing for me, although the next one is the council members, and Councillor Abbott has got one, and which is bird friendly. And I'm also going to ask him to do item 2, which I spoke to him about earlier today. And it was trail cams. And I found it fascinating information I think you should share, and maybe we can do something with this. So if that's fine with you, Councillor Abbott, we'll go right to you now for the bird friendly and the trail cams.
Okay, before I do the bird friendly, maybe we should just talk about the trail cams. I wasn't expecting that. I think we could both, myself and workshop manager and others who have seen it, could maybe do with a little bit of analysis and a bit of a report on the trail cams. I don't know that it's something we want to, if no one else has seen it other than a handful of us.
We don't have any trail cams.
Trail counters, you mean?
But I think that's what, yeah, that's what the mayor, the trail counters. I think that's what
Okay.
the mayor's saying.
Aren't they counts?
No, they're not
They just
cameras.
count. They just count.
No, we'd have to do a whole OIPC
Oh, I see. Yeah.
thing
Okay.
for that.
And I think that maybe is, planning committee is maybe the place to have a discussion on that, I would have thought. I know you put it in for possibly for other uses as well, but there's certainly people there who have interest in it.
The emergency planning committee.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. That would be the place for it. But-
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Like I said, I think not everybody's aware of what this is. I think Councillor Abbott, the way you described it to me is that, we may be sitting and drinking our coffee at 10 o'clock at one day, but there's an army of people going in different directions.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of cool data out there.
I think it should be, let's have time to look at it at the EPC, and then maybe we can share it with all of council at a follow-up meeting.
Yeah, I mean, essentially what it is we're counting the number of people that are using the trails so that we can use that information when we start working on a watershed management plan, which we're required to by the drinking water protection officer. So we're using that to gather data on how many people walk through the watershed. But there are other uses for that data around emergency planning. So it does make sense to be discussed and managed in that committee.
And it also informs thoughts on parking when you look at those numbers up in Sunset in the sun.
Absolutely, yeah.
So yeah, it has multiple uses. It's some useful information.
All right, gentlemen, and we'll see it when we see it in a different place or in a different committee. Councillor Abbott, back to you on, and I don't know where you get this stuff, but you always do. Tell us about you can read your own resolution, and I'll be happy to second it, but where you find stuff like this, I don't know, but I like it.
Well, as to where I get this stuff, I think it actually says so in the report, but it doesn't take much of a leap to realize it's probably the same people that approached previously around the tree bylaw and protection of songbird nesting season. But what this is, and I'm going to take that everyone's read it and not read it line by line. So what this is, there's an organization that part of Nature Canada that designates cities as bird friendly, and you have to meet certain criteria to score a number of points. It's one of those systems, and then you get this designation. Currently, there's a handful of cities that are designated, and they're all big cities. Calgary is one, out in Ontario, Toronto, I'm trying to remember the others, Vancouver, there's a few, but they're all big cities. One of the residents approached them and asked them about a criteria for a smaller organization, a smaller city, small municipality that couldn't meet those kind of commitments and couldn't put those kind of programs in. And that person had been working with them and come up with, help them come up with a scoring system for small communities. So yeah, we're right up in front on the edge on this one, we're right up in front of the crowd. If we do this, we could be one of, if not the first, to get this designation for small communities. There is no ask from staff. It should not take any staff time or exception, with possibly maybe some letters of support from the workshop, potentially on justifying our speeding restrictions and how that is positive for birds, The fact that we don't create light pollution, a few things like that might just need supporting letters. Probably going to be NI. They'll work the NI to get that. Other than that, there's no real ask. One of the obligations, once you get this designation, you committed to do an annual event. The group would then be applying in future years to get some in-kind use of the hall, that kind of thing, for the annual event. That they don't foresee necessarily asking for money at this stage, and if there was any cost, it would be certainly very small. It's all resident driven. Probably going to see if we can link this with the Bear Smart committee, because they are also obliged to do an annual event, and maybe even link it in with the shore cleanup that we used to do. That's sort of, COVID gave that a bit of a bump, and maybe wrap all these things up together into one sort of event day focused on all these, environmental, from an animal management kind of point of view, environmental issues, not the greenhouse gas stuff. For the bird friendly, the annual event has to happen on Migratory Bird Day. That's not to say we can't link it with some other initiatives. I think that's it. I've been glancing down the report as I spoke, but trying not to read it. So questions that I can answer, I'm willing to answer. If there isn't any difficult ones, I might take some notes and have to get back to you. But what the resolution is, I guess we should actually read the resolution.
So Councillor Abbott has asked on our behalf, do we support the volunteer initiative, et cetera, et cetera. I've seconded that. He's done the discussion. So any questions? So CAO?
Have you thought, Councillor Abbott, about what the consultation would look like with First Nations, which is like a mandatory requirement?
Yes, we have given some consideration to that, and we don't have a clear answer. We were going to see if we could reach out to maybe Councillor Cunliffe or Mr. Simons, other people that have, three other groups have had some involvement with the First Nations, and see if we can get some support there. Maybe Councillor Cunliffe might want to comment. There's not much commitment asked from them. It's just a consultation. I think a letter is required, a letter of support.
I would be happy. I could speak with Ruth Simons and find the best person she feels that might be able to expedite some correspondence on that. My only comment is, being a young single person with a loft in Gastown, waking up to birds at dawn used to irritate me. The pigeons that were viewed as city rats, sky rats. And then we moved to Lions Bay, and the first word of my fourth child was bird, because our backyard has a haven and mecca for so much bird life. I have a wonderful appreciation for them. So I'm really excited about this initiative, and I really appreciate you, Councillor Albert, for bringing this to us. So you have my full support.
Thank you very much. Councillor Abbott, from my perspective, I pitch to senior levels of government, and when I look at what Lions Bay is going for, this is just another little jewel in the crown that makes us different from 162 other municipalities, 161 other municipalities. With the cuts on biosphere, the Bear Smart, our climate action people, the trails. It just resonates with me tremendously. And you've asked Councillor Cunliffe, but Indigenous relations is one of the things I was going to do this year. And I've been trying to meet the Squamish chief via Ruth live when she's been here, but she has been ill and then Christmas. So however this comes about, I think this is a good opportunity for Lions Bay to get a twofer out of this. Firstly, on the birds, and second, to commence our relationship. Since, to be candid, we have none on a corporate level. So anything I can do to help, please count me in.
If I could offer as well, native plant garden people are interested in cooperating with the bird-friendly group as well. So they're talking together, and looks like it's going to come to an interesting end.
Yeah. Sorry, Fred. Thanks very much for that. I forgot to mention that connection. Yes, they've been in discussion about the native plant garden and some bird signage going up there. And there was a request that we get the birds that are going to go on that signage translated into for the First Nations, and so there's a little bit of work to be done there. But yeah, thanks for that, Fred.
Thank you very much. Councillor Barber, we'll close with you, and then on behalf of Councillor Abbott, I will call a motion.
Yeah, for what it's worth, you know, I build birdhouses with my nephews when they come to visit, and they love the activity, and they love taking their birdhouses home. So they've got a real strong appreciation for nature and the preservation of our habitat, and that comes from our family. So, you know, this resonates with me. I spent most of the cold days trying to heat up my hummingbird feeders to keep them from being iced up, because I knew that they relied on us to feed them. So this really strikes a chord with me, Councillor Abbott, and I'm willing to support in any way I can. Thanks.
Thanks, Norm. Yeah, and as everyone speaks, other things come to mind that I didn't mention. There's definitely an educational and a youth element to this mentioned in the report. There's you know, members of the youth of Lions Bay already on board. So yeah, all those things have been thought of, and they're all coming together. But thanks, Norm.
Thank you very much, Councillor Abbott, for bringing us forward. On your behalf, I will call a motion. I will presume everyone's in favor. Please reply with a resounding yes.
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 There you go. Thank you. Any other council members have any reports? Otherwise, we'll go to the next item. There being none, the next item is the Trees, Views and Landscape Committee, which you can find out on page 5 of your agenda. I'm not going to read the whole recommendation, but in brief, that the Trees, Views and Landscape Committee recommends to council that council approves tree cutting permit application number 117, subject to the following, and it will be that I'm not going to read it, A, B, and C, and subsections 1, 2, 3, and 4. I'll put that forward. Can I have a second, please? Good. Any discussion? Looks pretty straightforward. No opposition from the residents. No opposition from work shards. Cleanup. It's a site view. All good.
I noticed it was a meeting that started at 10 and ended at 10:05. So I think this was a slam dunk for the tree committee. It didn't take too much consideration.
There we go. Well, we like slam dunks. Thank you. We'll call a motion. All those in favor, please confirm by saying yes. Opposed, no.
Yes.
Thank you. Carried. Next one is the emergency services, and their report, which you can see starts on page 127. I'll put forward the motion to receive, and that's their monthly report. Can I have a seconder to receive? Any questions? Presume all in favor. Yes, good. Thank you. Next one up is bylaws, and that's the secondary suite surcharge amendment bylaw. And the recommendation is that the secondary suite surcharge bylaw number 513/2017, amendment bylaw number 603/2022 be introduced and given 3 readings. Councillor Abbott, will you put that forward? Thank you. I will happily second that. CFO, any discussion, any points on this one?
No, basically, from council direction of implementing this for the next round of utility bills, we were required to change the bylaw as we had discussed. So these are the changes necessary to the bylaw in order to us to implement council's direction. Or 3 readings, as you say.
Okay. Any
questions about the
changes? Questions? Further discussion? No, I will call a motion. All those in favor, please confirm by saying yes. Opposed, no.
Yes.
Yes.
Good, carried. Thank you very much. And drum roll, please. We are on item number 12, which is a happy thing for Councillor Abbott, and not so happy for Councillor Bain because it's his rotation for a quarter on correspondence. And Councillor Bain, we had this chat earlier today. There's 2 sections, as you know, the general outside correspondence and the internal resident one. My recommendation for you to follow or not is that as a blanket statement, we accept the general correspondence unless somebody wants to pull an item out and make discussion on that. So your call, sir.
I think most of them are pretty straightforward. I think they're more for, maybe somebody's got some general interest in them, but we've got a bunch from Metro, more from our MP, Girl Guides, I think of cookies. If anybody has any more in-depth comments or wants to pull one out of the external, I think this would be the time to mention it if you could.
No, so Councillor Baines advised this would be a consent to proceed for information unless somebody's got something. There being anybody, Councillor Abbott?
So, yeah, I think our climate committee members want to take a close look at the commitments coming up in the Race to Zero initiative if they haven't done. I think that certainly needs to go to the Climate Action Committee. The Metro's made some commitment there, which I think is on all of our behalfs, all municipalities. So I think we need to start looking at and working at that. What I'm never quite clear about in these initiatives is, are they talking about just our municipal facilities, or are they talking about the community at large? And I think this time they're actually talking about the community at large. I did click through to some of those links, but I certainly encourage Councillors Barmeyer and Cunliffe to have a good look at that if they haven't done already.
Thank you very much. Anything else, Councillor Abbott? Nope.
Sorry, just 1 second. The item on WildSafe BC program number 23. I had a look at that, and first I thought it was something we wanted to do until I realized that we had to cough up the first $4,000, even though before the grant funding kicked in. So it really doesn't work for a small community like ours because we're doing all this with volunteers. Although I thought it was a great program, I don't think we should look at it. But I might ask one of my Bear Smart people to maybe, or potentially someone else does a lot of this for us, to contact them and see if there's any kind of program for a smaller community again, but it wouldn't be this year, it'd be down the track. But our bear friendly certification is kind of linked there, but we're not part of that program. And then just one other observation, had we wanted to act on that, we got the letter on the 6th of January, never made it till this package. It has to be done by the end of the month, so we probably would have been late as well. So I request for staff, if we see things like this that come in that we think people might want to, if you could flick it to us and give us a chance. If we did want to act on it, it would give us a chance or some time to work on it.
Thank you very much. Good pickup. And we'll leave the WildSafe under your wing for the time being. All right. On Councillor Bain's behalf, I'll presume the rest are received. Councillor Bain, what about the resident correspondence?
Yeah, resident correspondence. First one up is from Merrick Shredsky. Got various topics on here, but I'd like to highlight his point one, a special thank you to Neville for all his outstanding efforts this year with the UCB issue. I think appreciate that. On the bottom of his email, he's got a picture of sand with a cork in it. I really have no idea what that's supposed to represent. It says season greetings and Happy New Year 2022. So I guess
it's a champagne cork, Fred.
Oh, it is. Oh,
Yeah.
I guess it shows I'm not familiar with those.
Councillor
There
Cummings
you are.
familiar with that. There you
I
go.
am. I'm here for both of us.
Oh,
There
okay.
you go.
I'll put a tea bag on the next one. Got the next one is from Valerie Cox. It's not sure how to deal with this. I think we've talked about it before about the beach park. What did she say here? It says that we can claim our beach park back and be what it always was. Well, since we joined Metro Vancouver, we have to share our beaches. So unfortunately, I think we're going to have to decline on the request on this one. If there's any other comments on that, or?
Councillor Bain, from my perspective, it's a small but slippery slope. Why don't you respond to her?
I shall, thank you. Also, the next one down, we've got from Michael Johns wishing us a happy new year. And we can thank him for that, I guess, and all the best to them as well. And the next ones, there's various comments, various writers on various topics. Mostly they're responded to correspondence, emails and responses of past comments, I should say. So I would just say it's just a catch up to receive them in print. And that's all I've got for here.
Thank you very much. Very quickly done. We look forward to hearing from you again shortly, which brings us to new business, of which there is none, and then it's public questions and comments. And I see we have one gallery member still, I think. Mr. Reuter, if you want to come forward, please unmute. You don't have to take your camera off if you don't wish. You can speak or not, sir, whichever you choose. We'll take that as a no, and unless you catch me before I wind up. And that will be the, we will postpone this meeting now at 9:04 and go into the closed session that we held open, and then we will report back out, I am sure. So to the gallery, we'll say good evening, and to the counselors and staff, stay where you are, don't go to another link, and let's take a 5-minute break. Good evening, everybody. It is 17 minutes to 10, and council and staff have come back from the closed session of the meeting and are back into the open before we close it. And we have the two items to report out. One is that the emergency program was discussed in camera. Council and staff decided on a way forward, and further discussion will be held at the emergency program committee. On the second piece to be reported out is that ISL Engineering has been awarded a contract in the amount of $78,735. And there's authorization that the mayor and the CAO can execute a contract substantially in the same form as the RFP that ISL won, and any associated documents pertaining to the fulfillment of the contract. Councillors, could you confirm that those are the items that we are going to report out? Yes, thank you. And thank you. And that concludes the public portion of the meeting. And I'll ask for a motion to close, which I'll put forward. Can I have a second? Thank you, Councillor Barman. All in favor?
Aye.
And we'll say a hearty good night to everybody and happy Tuesday.